Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this verse has a reference to the previous verse because it says Tada. Means at that time. What time? When the Supreme Lord, who is represented by the monarchical regime, by an administration done by a king, powerful king, and when this regime is abolished by the kingly regime, royal regime is abolished, then the whole world becomes filled with thieves who then at once vanquish the unprotected subjects like scattered lambs. So in the Vedic system of administration, the king protects the citizens because he is competent, he is powerful, he is trained, he has got empowerment because he is a representative of the Supreme Lord. Then the people are able to properly practice dharma as given in the Vedic scriptures. And they make progress towards going back home, back to Godhead. But if the king's protection is not there, then people will be vanquished by thieves and rogues. And in the next verse it is said, due to the termination of the monarchical regimes and the plundering of the people's wealth by rogues and thieves, there will be great social disruptions. Society is organized, should be organized in such a way that people can live peacefully and save time for practicing Krishna consciousness to make advancement in spiritual life, to go back home, back to Godhead. But if there is no protection and rogues and thieves plunder people's wealth, then there will be social disruption. Society will become completely disorganized. People will be killed and injured, and animals and women will be stolen. And for all these sins, we shall be responsible. Who's speaking this? Shamika Rishi is speaking this. And he is speaking when his son, young son, Shringi, explained to the father what happened. So the background for this entire incident, Parikshit cursed by a Brahmana boy, is explained by Suta Goswami to the sages of Naimisharanya. And Suta Goswami is narrating the incidents leading to this Parikshit being cursed by Brahmana boy. So, Parikshit was the emperor of the world after the Pandavas, and he was perfectly ruling. Once when he went hunting, then he became very thirsty and he started searching for water. He could not find any water, drinking water, and kept on searching till he came to an ashram that happened to be the ashram of Shamika Rishi. Shamika Rishi happened to be engaged in meditation, silent meditation. And he had entered a state of trance, samadhi. That means he is not conscious of external surroundings. He is absorbed fully in meditation on the Supreme Lord in the heart. And a proper yogi will not close his eyes fully when he does such meditation. Neither he'll keep the eyes fully open. He will have half-closed eyes. Prabhupada explains this in the Bhagavad Gita. That the proper practice of Ashtanga Yoga means while sitting for meditation, one should not fully close the eyes, one should not keep it fully open. The yogi should have half-closed eyes. What does Prabhupada say? What is the reason why eyes should be half-closed? If you close fully, there is a chance, every chance that the yogi will go to sleep. And if he keeps the eyes fully open, too many distractions outside. So therefore, to avoid distraction and also to avoid sleeping, he keeps the eyes half closed. This is just one of the regulations for doing silent meditation according to Ashtanga Yoga. There are many more regulations which are not practically possible to be followed in Kali Yuga. And therefore in Kali Yuga, Ashtanga Yoga system is not recommended. Only Bhakti Yoga is recommended in Kali Yuga. And even among the different processes of practicing Bhakti, the most recommended process is chanting of Hare Krishna. So this Shamika Rishi, because he had his eyes half closed, when Parikshit, who was very thirsty and tired, entered this Shamika Rishi's ashram, he could see this yogi, this Rishi sitting for meditation. But because he was very thirsty, he was looking for water, he did not find any water. He began to think that this Rishi is avoiding receiving the king because he thinks that he is a Brahmana and is superior to the king. So Parikshit wrongly thought that this Rishi is just sitting but not completely absorbed in meditation because he had half closed eyes. So that was a mistake on the part of Parikshit to think like that. But not finding water and not even receiving any reception from this Rishi, Parikshit became angry. Now the Vedic culture, you have to understand that anybody who comes to your house is to be treated as a guest. Atithi Devo Bhava. Atithi means guest. But what kind of guest? One who comes without any prior intimation. Atithi. Not giving prior intimation. Not with an invitation. No invitation. No prior intimation. Suddenly the guest comes. So, the Vedic culture states that when a guest comes suddenly, still the host has to receive properly. Has to receive the guest properly. At least he should welcome him with sweet words, offer him a seat, and at least give him some water, which is possible to be done even by the poorest of poor person. So that is the wonderful system in the Vedic culture, that anybody can receive a guest properly. So, even Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, when Sudama was visiting him, Krishna received him so very nicely. Krishna immediately got up from his seat and went to receive this Brahmana, Sudama Brahmana, who was presenting himself in a poverty-stricken condition. He was wearing torn and tattered clothes, and he was reduced to skin and bones because he had not eaten food for many, I don't know how many days or weeks or months, I don't know. He had not eaten any food. Because he was an enlightened Brahmana, he would not beg if nobody came and gave him some dakshina or dana. In the Vedic culture, a Brahmana gives service to other sections of the society free of charge. And those who take service, generally they give some dakshina or dana, some charity, they give something. So this Sudama Brahmana, if somebody comes and takes some service or gives dana, he will accept. If nobody comes to take any service or nobody comes to give any dana, he will not go and beg for some grains, for some food. He will fast and he will simply drink water and sleep. End of the day. Again, next day, nobody comes. Again, he will fast. Like that, for several days and weeks and months, he had not eaten any food because nobody came and gave him. So the Bhagavatam describes such a Brahmana as highly enlightened Brahmana. What is that enlightenment of such a Brahmana? Will keep on fasting. He is dependent completely on the Supreme Personality of Godhead for his existence. And if Krishna sends something, he will accept. If Krishna does not send anything, he will not make his own arrangements. He will simply fast. So such a Brahmana is very, very enlightened. So the Sudama Brahmana, he had gone to meet Krishna, his friend in Gurukul, on the request of his wife. So Krishna received him very, very nicely. Personally, Krishna got up to welcome him, and Krishna embraced him. So all the palace inhabitants, they were surprised. Who is this poverty-stricken, emaciated person? He is being embraced by Krishna. Bhagavatam explains, in Krishna's palace, he was in Rukmini's palace. Sudama happened to enter one of these 16,108 palaces. That happened to be Rukmini's palace. So Krishna was with Rukmini. In that palace, it is explained that Krishna would embrace only two personalities in the palace. One is Rukmini, other one is Balaram. But Krishna, who never embraces anybody else in that palace, when Sudama entered the palace, he embraced him. Sudama immediately felt transcendental bliss as soon as Krishna's hands went round his emaciated body in embrace. The touch was very, very, very pleasing, and he went into ecstasy. Krishna brought him very nicely and made him sit on his own seat. And Krishna ordered that his servants bring paraphernalia for worshipping this Brahmana. So Krishna washed his feet, and the water that washed the Brahmana's feet, Krishna took that water and sprinkled on his head. The entire creation, everyone take the water that washes Krishna's feet and purify themselves. That water is called what is it called? The river Ganges, Vishnu Padodaka, the water that washes the feet of Lord Vishnu or Krishna. And here is Krishna taking the water that washed the feet of that Brahmana Sudama and sprinkling on his head, as if he required to become purified. So, why I am mentioning this is that the Vedic culture states that the guest should be received appropriately, with all respect. If the Supreme Lord receives a subordinate devotee this way, then what to speak of a rishi receiving the king, the emperor of the world? So it was not expected that the king will not even be received properly. But then this rishi, Shamika Rishi, he was completely cut off from all external happenings because he had completely absorbed himself in samadhi. So he was completely unaware of what was happening outside. So it's not his fault. He is sitting in his own ashram. He is a rishi. He is engaged in meditation. That's his business. And the king has not come with proper invitation or not informed. So how can we expect this Shamika Rishi to receive the king properly? Anyway, Parikshit became very angry and he saw one dead snake lying just outside the ashram. He took that dead snake and garlanded the rishi with that dead snake and walked away from that ashram. So while this Shamika Rishi was sitting, he was not at all conscious what was happening. The king walked away, and this some children who were playing nearby saw this, and they went immediately to the young son of this Shamika Rishi, and reported what happened. So this boy who was playing with other boys of his age, when he heard his father was insulted by the king, he became very angry. Then he said, I will show my Brahmanical power. Immediately he took some water and uttered a mantra and cursed the king to die within 7 days. Then after that he came back to the ashram, and he was seeing his father sitting with that dead snake round his neck. He began to cry. So then Shamika Rishi gradually was coming out of trance, and he heard the crying. He opened his eyes fully and then saw, his son is crying. And he saw one dead snake round his neck. So he took that dead snake, removed it from his neck, threw it away. Did not make a big issue of that. But he called his son and said, my dear son, why are you crying? What is the matter? So the son explained what happened. Then Shamika Rishi is reacting. The father heard from the son that the king had been cursed, although he should never have been condemned, for he was the best amongst all human beings. So the Rishi is now repenting, and he is explaining, if the protection of such a king as Parikshit is not there for the people, what will happen to people? They'll be unprotected, thieves and rogues will plunder their wealth, social disruption will happen. And today's verse, at that time when people are not protected, they are plundered by rogues and thieves, people in general will fall systematically from the path of progressive civilization in respect to qualitative engagements of castes and orders of society and the Vedic injunctions. Vedic society is organized in such a way that the whole society will be divided into 4 varnas and 4 ashramas. 4 varnas are the social orders. According to their guna, acquired nature, people are classified as Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, not according to birth, but according to their acquired nature. Guna karma vibhagashaha, Bhagavad Gita is explained. Everywhere in the Vedas it is explained. Nowhere it is said that a person born in a Brahmana family is to be classified as a Brahmana. Nowhere it is said. And what is happening today? Simply on the basis of birth, people claim to belong to a particular varna. And when somebody is taken birth in a Brahmana family, but not having the qualification of a Brahmana, not having the acquired nature of a Brahmana, claims to be a Brahmana, then the whole society becomes degraded. Why? Because Brahmanas are supposed to direct the society. What is the goal of life, human life? People in general do not know. So a Brahmana who is qualified, is enlightened, What is the real goal of human life? He knows. He has learned, he has studied, he has understood, he is enlightened. So he guides the rest of the society towards that goal, teaches the people the goal of life is not sense enjoyment but self-realization. And for self-realization, one should actually perform certain duties which will lead to self-realization. So if there is an absence of such qualified brahmanas, which happens when there is no proper protection by a powerful, empowered, qualified Kshatriya king, which is the condition in Kali Yuga, then people will not be protected, people will not be properly guided, people will not be properly engaged in the proper duties, then there will be chaos in the society. People will naturally become more attracted to economic development for sense gratification, artha and kama. Without proper dharma, artha and kama are very dangerous for a conditioned soul. Because a conditioned soul is naturally inclined to simply enjoy sense gratification in this material world. And sense gratification requires money, artha, economic development. So that economic development should be obtained, or money should be obtained by following dharma. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. This is the civilized society, properly guided by qualified brahmanas under the protection of a powerful king, Kshatriya. But no Kshatriya to properly protect the people, and no qualified brahmanas, then people simply, some or the other, get money and simply misuse that money for only sense gratification. And then the society becomes degraded. So as a result of such degradation, it is described here, there will be an unwanted population on the level of dogs and monkeys. Animal life. Dharma vihina pashubhis samana. Elsewhere in the scriptures it is said, if people do not follow dharma, then their life becomes animal life. Animals don't have higher understanding of what is the purpose of life, how to get their necessities, some or the other secure the needs of the body, some or other enjoy sense gratification. No rules, no regulations, no proper understanding, no training, no culture. That is animal life. So, the degradation of the human society is being foretold in the Bhagavatam, and we see that now. Even though people are not as degraded as is described here, but they are on the path of degradation. Particularly in this Dharma Bhumi, Bharat Varsha, because of the people not being protected by a proper king and lack of qualified, enlightened brahmanas, people in general are becoming degraded. Still, in Bharat Varsha, because of the culture, tradition, heritage, the degradation is not as fast as it is in the other countries, the Western countries, or the other parts of the world. But unfortunately, people in Bharatvarsha are neglecting their culture, neglecting their tradition, and imitating the degraded people of the uncivilized, uncultured part of the world. And people of Bharatvarsha are also becoming degraded. So this degradation can be stopped and people can be properly situated only through the recommended process for Kali Yuga, which is Sankirtana Yajna. Yajnai Sankirtana Prayer Yajantihi Sumedasaha. Harer Nama Harer Namaiva Kevalam Kalau Nastyeva Gatiranyatha. In Kali Yuga, there is no other way. 3 times it is stressed and told that there is no other way other than chanting the holy name of the Supreme Lord Hari. Harer Nama. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains Harer Nama literally means chanting the name of Hari. But which name of Hari? Hari has got millions and billions of names. Which name to chant? So that is specifically mentioned in the Kali Santarana Upanishad. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains this. According to Kali Santarana Upanishad, in Kali Yuga, iti shodashakam namnam kali kalmasha nashanam nata parataropaya sarva vedeshu drishyate. In the entirety of the Vedic literature, there is no better method to be found than chanting the 16 names of the Supreme Lord Hari as given in the Kali Santarana Upanishad in the form of this Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This mantra is very, 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 very powerful, very effective, very easy to chant. That anybody who chants these 16 words, they become completely purified, immune to the evil influence of Kali. Kali Kalmasha Nashanam. Kali Kalmasha is this evil influence of Kali Yuga where 4 kinds of sinful activities are very prominent because they are the places of residence for Kali Purusha. Kali Purusha tried to enter the kingdom of Parikshit Maharaj when Parikshit was ruling. That is explained in the earlier chapters, 16, 17 chapter of this first canto. That is beginning of Kali Yuga. The Kali Purusha was seeking shelter in Parikshit's kingdom because Parikshit's kingdom was being so nicely ruled by Parikshit Maharaj that there was no body indulging in intoxication, meat eating, gambling, illicit sex. Nobody was indulging in that. None of the population. That was a perfect rule of Parikshit Maharaj. So Kali Purusha tried to enter and Parikshit stopped him and chastised him. And Kali Purusha, not finding any shelter, he surrendered to Parikshit Maharaj. Then Parikshit Maharaj had to give him some shelter. A surrendered soul, even if he is the most sinful person, the king has to give him some shelter. Because he surrendered. So then Parikshit gave him place, 4 places. You can reside in a place where there is intoxication, gambling, illicit sex or meat eating going on. And this Kali Purusha felt cheated. That there is no place like that in your entire kingdom. So in effect you are not giving me shelter. So then Parikshit took compassion upon this surrendered Kali Purusha and gave him a 5th place, where gold is accumulated without being used for yajna, for worshipping Krishna, for worship of Vishnu, for Krishna consciousness. Such a place Kali Purusha was given shelter. And in Kali Yuga, Kali resides in such places where gold is accumulated and not used for Krishna consciousness. And because of Kali infiltrating in such homes, people misuse wealth or gold for sinful activities, particularly these 4 types of sinful activities. And this can be seen very, very clearly in the so-called rich countries of the world. These 4 sinful activities are very prominent. Very prominent. And people perform these sinful activities without even thinking about these activities as sinful activities. It is common, and even people do indulge in such sinful activities in a so-called civilized way. But actually it is uncivilized. To indulge in these 4 sinful activities is uncivilized. At least in the Vedic culture, civilized people will never indulge in these 4 sinful activities. So, now, because Kali Purusha was given residence in a place where gold is accumulated without being used for Krishna consciousness, so then Kali infiltrated into human society on the earth after Parikshit's disappearance. And because as long as Parikshit was ruling, even if there was any gold not being utilized properly, Parikshit would not allow Kali Purusha to corrupt the people. Even though he was given shelter, he could not perform his nefarious deeds. Kali Purusha is called Adharma Bandhu, friend of irreligion. That means he'll spread irreligion by his influence. And Parikshit would not allow that. But after Parikshit's disappearance, Kali Purusha, who had already found shelter in places where gold was accumulated without being used for Krishna consciousness, then people, by the influence of Kali, started misusing this wealth for sinful activities, especially these 4 sinful activities, by the influence of Kali. So when Kali Santarana Upanishad says to cross over the material existence in this age of Kali, Kali Santarana means to cross over the influence of Kali, is possible by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Kali Kalmasha Nashana. The evil influence of Kali is destroyed. So people can be protected or saved from the bad influence of these 4 sinful habits by chanting Hare Krishna. And Prabhupada demonstrated that. He traveled everywhere in the world and taught people to chant Hare Krishna, and they were saved. And they are being saved even now. Prabhupada's movement is still going on everywhere, preaching. So this chanting of Hare Krishna is so very nice. But even though the scriptures say, anyhow you chant, you will be purified, you will be protected from sins. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has blessed everyone that simply by chanting Hare Krishna, not only can you become purified, sinless, but you can also awaken your dormant devotion, bhakti, and become a first-class devotee of Krishna and achieve or attain Krishna Prema. But to attain Krishna Prema, it is not possible if you somehow or the other chant Hare Krishna. No. You have to chant Hare Krishna in the association of devotees. And in the association of devotees, you should chant offenselessly. That is important. Of course, somebody chants somehow Hare Krishna, even offensively. They are purified of sinful reactions. They become purified of sinful reactions. They are freed from sinful reactions. But they cannot get Krishna Prema, they cannot advance in Krishna consciousness. They cannot awaken their dormant bhakti in the heart. That is not awakened. So therefore, since the scriptures say our goal of life is to awaken our bhakti and go back to Godhead, Krishna's personal abode, which Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, so many places. Mam upetya punarjanma dukkhalayam ashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmanaha samsiddhim paramam gata. Samsiddhi means the highest perfection. Though other processes of self-realization or other processes of dharma, they can give you perfection of liberation from material bondage, purify you. But they cannot give you samsiddhi, highest perfection of going back to Godhead, attaining Krishna's abode, becoming an associate of Krishna. That is not possible by other processes other than bhakti. And bhakti has been simplified by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Simply chant Hare Krishna in the association of devotees, following the simple principles of Krishna consciousness, avoiding these 4 sinful activities in the beginning. At least avoid these 4 sinful activities. Though there are many types of sinful activities somebody can commit, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stresses, based on the Bhagavatam, teachings of the Bhagavatam, that in Kali Yuga, people should first of all stop these 4 sinful activities: meat eating, intoxication, gambling, illicit sex. Because they are the places of residence of Kali. And if Kali flourishes, then people become irreligious. Whatever religious principles anybody may be following, to whatever extent, by influence of Kali, religion is almost completely destroyed. And we can see that happening. Just like in some religious systems, which is not properly followed, they have corrupted.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram
Our
Ram.
religion allows eating meat.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram.
Kali is destroying their real religious principles, and they are becoming irreligious. They're becoming irreligious. So, if at all we want to practice dharma, first of all stop these 4 sinful activities. The stress is given on stopping these 4 sinful activities because these are the 4 places where Kali resides. And the 5th place is also important to consider. Even if somebody is not indulging in these 4 sinful activities, if they have accumulated wealth which is not used for Krishna consciousness, for religion, religious purposes, they don't use wealth, excess wealth, then also Kali's influence will make them degraded. They become irreligious. We see that somebody is born in a very, very pious family in our country. But if somehow they come in contact with irreligious people, uncivilized, uncultured people, then also, if they don't have bad habits, these 4 sinful habits, and they don't have wealth to spare, then they are protected. But if they indulge in these 4 sinful activities, or if they have accumulated wealth which is not used for religious purposes, then they become degraded, irreligious, Kali influence. But all such people, or anybody, irrespective of what their position is, somehow if they chant Hare Krishna, immediately Kali influence is completely nullified. Kali kalmashanashanam. And there is no other way. There is no other way for destroying the evil influence of Kali. There is no other way. So therefore, the Shastras say, Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Iva Kevalam, only one way. 3 times it is stressed. Simply to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So all of us are chanting Hare Krishna, but we should not be selfish, that we are saved, we are protected. No. Krishna is very, very compassionate upon the suffering souls in this world. And especially when he has appeared as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is most compassionate. He is most munificent, benevolent. So he himself, he is distributing this Hare Krishna mantra, and he's requesting everybody else who is engaged in chanting Hare Krishna to also distribute this to the unfortunate people, suffering souls, so that they can be saved. Everyone, anyone can be saved simply if they chant Hare Krishna. So we should preach, we should request people to chant Hare Krishna, somehow or the other make them chant Hare Krishna. Try to convince them, try to request them, try to implore, plead with them, please chant Hare Krishna and save yourself. And it's a fact that no other method will work. So I'll stop here. Any questions? Is there time for questions? I've exceeded the time already. Okay, quick. Yes.
Maharaj was a great devotee of Lord Krishna. So why is it that he got angry at when he couldn't control his senses?
It is described later on that it was the arrangement of the Lord for Bhagavatam to be spoken. What did it lead to ultimately? That Parikshit, when he heard about the curse, instead of counteracting the curse, he decided to retire from his kingly duties, and he decided to prepare himself to quit his body in 7 days. And for preparing himself, he went to a holy place and inquired from the saintly persons, what should I do? And none of the saintly persons were able to properly guide him in the matter of practicing some religious principles to achieve perfection in 7 days. They said 7 days is very less time to achieve perfection. And Parikshit wanted perfection. So then Krishna arranged that Shukadev Goswami entered that assembly, and he said 7 days is a lot of time. If one follows the process of hearing Krishna Katha. So he said 1 moment is enough to achieve highest perfection, topmost perfection. If one can completely absorb one's mind in hearing or chanting or remembering Krishna, his pastimes, his holy name, his qualities, his paraphernalia, his abode, then one can achieve the highest perfection. So Parikshit sat and heard 7 days. Shukadeva Goswami spoke Krishna's glories, and that is recorded by Vyasadeva as Bhagavatam. So Bhagavatam was spoken, and Bhagavatam was compiled, and Bhagavatam was revealed to the whole world because Parikshit was cursed and Parikshit became angry. So this is a part of the Leela of Krishna, Krishna Leela, that Parikshit was participating in Krishna Leela. Any other question?
Krishna wants to reclaim all fallen souls, so he enacts through his purity and he empowers like Prabhupada. So if one Prabhupada can do such a miracle on this year, why won't Krishna send so many devotees and so that faster they can move back to God?
Because such pure devotees are very rare. Most of the pure devotees are in the spiritual world with Krishna. They don't want to come to the material world. This is what is explained in the Bhagavatam. The gopis, they are glorifying Krishna. In their prayers to Krishna, they are telling, this is one of the verses of the Gopi Gita. Gopi Gita. What is that verse? Pratap Rudra sang that. Tava kathamritam tapta jivanam kavibiriditam shravana mangalam srimadaatatam bhuvi grinanti ye bhurida janaha. So the gopis are glorifying the kathamrita, Krishna kathamrita, the nectar of the descriptions of Krishna's pastimes. They are so wonderful that the most magnanimous devotees, Bhurida Janaha, they are coming to this material world simply to broadcast this Krishna Kathamrita among suffering souls, and in that way relieve them of all their suffering. So such devotees are very rare. How rare are such devotees? In the Bhagavatam it is said, Muktanam api siddhanam narayana parayana sudurlabha prashantatma kotishvapi mahamune. Now among Mukta Purushas and Siddha Purushas, Mukta Purushas are liberated souls and Siddha Purushas are perfected beings. They are among the best transcendentalists in this material world. Mukta Purushas and Siddha Purushas. Now, even among such transcendentalists, first of all, such transcendentalists are rare in the material world. But even if you were to find millions of such transcendentalists, which is very difficult, but let us say somehow you would be able to find millions of transcendentalists. Even among millions of such transcendentalists, Mukta Purushas, Siddha Purushas, to find one devotee of Narayana in the material world who is completely pure, fully dedicated for serving Narayana in the material world. In the material world, Narayana's main concern is the suffering souls, how they can be delivered. So, a dedicated devotee of Narayana, Narayana Parayana, who wants to serve Narayana in the material world, and that also wants to serve Narayana in the material world in engaging in the mission of Narayana in the material world, to deliver fallen souls, suffering souls. Such a devotee is very rare to find even among millions of crores of transcendentalists who are liberated and who are perfected. Kotishvapi mahamune sudurlabha prashantatma. Durlabha means very difficult to find. Sudurlabha means very, 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 very rare to find. So that's why when a pure devotee like Prabhupada appears in this world, all the 33 crore devatas, they begin to celebrate. They queue up to take blessings of Prabhupada. They want to take the dust of the lotus feet of Prabhupada. So such devotees are very, 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 very rare in the whole universe. Where are you searching for such pure devotee? Not in this earthly planet, not among sinful people. Even if you search among perfected beings in the topmost planet, Brahmaloka, upper planets, Siddhaloka, Saptarishi Mandala, there also you cannot find such a pure devotee. So you should realize how fortunate and blessed we are to come in contact with Prabhupada. And some unfortunate people, after coming in contact with Prabhupada, instead of taking shelter of Prabhupada, they are taking shelter of somebody else other than Prabhupada. So unfortunate. They don't realize that Prabhupada cannot be replaced easily. You cannot find a substitute for Prabhupada easily. Very, very, very rare. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, empowered Acharya, he had so many disciples. Many of them were very learned, were very, very well behaved, well cultured. They were nicely rendering service to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. But after his disappearance, none of them were able to go to the Western countries to preach to the most fallen souls Krishna consciousness according to his desire and instruction, except Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta Swami. Nobody was able to. Because it's not possible for anybody else to do it. It's not possible for anybody else to do it. Only such a empowered personality, specially empowered by Krishna. Krishna Shakti Vina Nahe Tara Pravartana. Chaitanya Charitamrita is described. Only that devotee who is empowered by Krishna specifically for delivering fallen souls can deliver. Others may attempt, others may sincerely try. That is also commendable. But that's not going to make it happen. It's not going to make it happen. And that was proved during Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's time. He sent, I think, Bon Maharaj and I think Bon Maharaj was the one. One particular disciple went and came back and said, it is impossible to preach to those mlechas and yavanas. They are very, very, and it's a fact, they are very degraded. It's not possible to preach. But Prabhupada went and preached to them and made them first-class devotees. So that's why this verse of the Bhagavatam is very important. Muktanam api siddhanam narayana parayana sudurlabha prashantatma kotishvapi mahamune. There have been so many kings, but a king like Parikshit, pure devotee, is very, very, very rare. Very rare. There are many rishis, many, all varieties of transcendentalists who are very, very powerful. When Parikshit was sitting in the holy place for preparing for quitting his body, all kinds of saintly persons from all over the universe came to that spot. They assembled there. So Bhagavatam describes many of them were so powerful personalities that they could purify a contaminated place just by their presence. They were so advanced spiritually. They were so powerful spiritually. But even they cannot speak the way Shukadeva Goswami spoke on Krishna. They also sat and heard Shukadeva Goswami speak about Krishna. So to find a pure devotee like Shukadeva Goswami, like Parikshit Maharaj, like Prabhupada, is not possible even among such Kotishvapi Mahamuni. And that's proved in the Bhagavatam itself. When Parikshit was sitting, who all assembled there. Great personalities. Brahmarshis, Rajarshis, Devarshis, Arunodayas, all varieties of advanced transcendentalists. They sat and heard Shukadeva Goswami speak. So Suta Goswami is glorifying Shukadeva Goswami. He is telling, my Guru, Yasvanubhavam Akhila Shruti Saramekam Adhyatma Deepam Atititirshatam Tamoandham Samsarinam Karunaya Aha Purana Guhyam Tam Vyasa Sunam Upayami Gurum Muninam. Says, my spiritual master, Suta Goswami is glorifying Shukadeva Goswami. My spiritual master is Gurum Muninam. He is the spiritual master of great transcendentalists. Because all of them sat and heard the Srimad Bhagavatam. Shuka mukhad amruta drava samyutam. Vyasadeva taught the Bhagavatam to his son, Shukadeva Goswami. But what Vyasadeva recorded is not what he learnt from Narada or what he taught to Shukadeva Goswami. No. He recorded what was spoken by Shukadeva Goswami. Why? Why? He only taught Shukadeva Goswami. Because even though Bhagavatam is the same, what Narada taught Vyasa, or what Vyasa taught Shukadeva Goswami, or what Shukadeva Goswami spoke, it is the same. Bhagavatam is same. But when it came out of the lips of Shukadeva Goswami, Shuka Mukhad Amruta Drava Samyutam, that which was already relishable, because it is pure nectar of Krishna Katha, Krishna Kathamruta, it became even more relishable when it touched the lips of Shukadeva Goswami. Just like a parrot, when a ripe mango, which is very, very sweet, before it falls down, if it is touched by the beaks, red beaks of a parrot, then that mango, which is already sweet and relishable, becomes even more so. Similarly, the Bhagavatam, which is already relishable, became more relishable when it came out of the lips of Shukadeva Goswami. Shuka Mukhad Amrita Drava Samyutam. And that is what is recorded by Vyasadeva. The words of Shukadeva Goswami, Shuka Uvacha. So this is a special position of Bhagavatam. There is no literature like Bhagavatam in the entire universe. And that Bhagavatam Prabhupada is presented to us in a way we can understand. Bhagavatam was always there before Prabhupada wrote translation. But who can understand Bhagavatam? Except when explained by Prabhupada in our generation. We cannot understand. So, we should daily hear or study or read Bhagavatam. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Then guaranteed we are going to make very rapid advancement in Krishna consciousness to achieve perfection very quickly. I'll stop here. Grantaraj Srimadh Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Please subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon. Never miss any updates.